This is the new Highfield Sport 330. It's an 11-foot long tender, which means it's perfect for most swim platforms of boats 30 feet or longer. Now this 330 sits in a family between the 300, the 330, and the 360. This one has a 5-person capacity and a maximum horsepower rating of 30. There's plenty of room inside for 5 passengers, and there's actually dedicated seating for 4 individuals. Before we take this boat out on the water, let's take a look at some of the details that make this new sport lineup so exciting. One thing you can't miss in all of these sport models is the upholstery. This is an upgraded double diamond stitched upholstery. This console, you'll notice, is perfectly positioned and it provides plenty of legroom. And one thing I really like about the Highfields is the cutout in the bottom of the console that allows just a little more room for your feet. Now the 300, 330, and 360 share this console, and they each provide a seat to the left of the console, which is a great spot to sit if you're underway and you don't want to sit all the way in the bow, you want to face forward. Now the attention to detail in all of these sport models is quite impressive. You've got this carbon accent stitching on the upholstery, but you also have it on the handholds on the tubes. And notice you don't find any D-rings or toe points on the tubes themselves. That's because Highfield has integrated them and welded them directly to the hull. Now check out this. You've got full-length rub strakes all the way around the boat, but they also act as a splash guard. And they're solid, they're not hollow, so they're very strong and they'll last for the life of the boat. Forward, we find a flattened bow step with EVA foam on all of the sport models. And some little details, you'll notice the nav lights are LED, but they're also recessed, which means they're flush with this front step. And that makes it really easy to board, even if you have to board a little bit from the side. Storage is somewhat limited because under the forward cushion, we do find a dedicated fuel tank. But the advantage is a larger fuel capacity, and we keep the weight forward, which should help keep the bow down when getting on plane. Now, under the console, we do have some storage, but this space is shared with the battery and some of the controls. But I do like the access to the forward console panel for adding electronics later on or even troubleshooting a problem. Now here's something interesting you don't always see. The foam inside the Highfield cushions is 100% reticulated, which means it won't hold any water. Water completely drains right through it. And so what they've done is they've added mesh to the bottom, so any moisture that does come in from above just drains right out the bottom and is gone. It won't hold moisture and they won't get rotten and moldy on you. Now notice the big handholds on the console. This is really nice if it gets a little bit rough. It also makes it easy to stand. Another nice feature are these switch panels, which are push button and LED backlit. And we find this throughout the entire sport lineup. Now there might not be any storage forward, but they do make up for it with a little bit of storage beside the console and plenty of storage under the double wide helm seat. And because the cushion is cut out, the seat opens all the way and is held up with a gas strut. But just look how much storage is underneath here. In fact, enough that Highfield even includes a 30-liter dry bag. We could put about 6 of these in there. Now check this out. Stainless lifting rings fold down to stay out of the way, but they're also on the upper part of the deck, which means it's much easier to attach any kind of lifting device to these D-rings than if they were way down on the bottom of the floor. There are a few options besides a chart plotter, including a factory-made sun pad and heavy-duty ski tow, for which there is a prefabbed hole ready and waiting. And now that we're in the water, you really can see just how much space there is in this 11-foot boat. Big, nice double-wide helm seat, and a little 25 Yamaha, which is quite quiet. Because the Yamaha 25 is so light, there is very little bow rise. Ironically, it doesn't feel strong out of the hole, but time to plane was surprisingly quick at just under 3 seconds. That is impressive when you consider this 330 has the deeper 20-degree V-hull from the Ocean Master. In fact, this is the smallest boat in Highfield's lineup today with that rough water hull. And the difference in ride comfort over the 15-degree hull is significant. This might only be an 11-foot boat, but this hull provides the kind of ride comfort that will allow you to explore all day. Let's spin the wheel a bit and see how she handles. Nose down, turn the wheel. This little boat will turn, and it seems to stay hooked up, even if the water gets a little bumpy. What's a little surprising is even with the 20-degree hull, it doesn't lean a lot when you turn. It still stays relatively flat. That's partly because the big 17-inch tubes remain in contact with the water. Now, one thing I really like about the Yamahas are the controls. You know, it's a little bit of a reach on the console, but to have the trim switch on your thumb is really handy. But you do need to adjust the trim a little bit when you're turning. And that's a bit because it's got a fairly deep hull. At 20-degree dead rise, it gives you a really good ride comfort. It also tends to allow a little bit of air close to the top when you spin the wheel. So you gotta touch the trim down just a bit. And I'll tell you what, little Yamaha is so responsive to trim. I mean, watch this. I put it down, and immediately you can see the spray, and the nose is in the water. But even with the nose down, I am still perfectly dry because of that rub rail that acts as a spray guard, keeps the water away. But trim it up a little bit, get the nose in the air, the spray comes back, boat gets out of the water, picks up a bit of speed, and now you can really feel that hull. It is so nice to have space at the helm. There's a lot of footroom here, and this grab bar really makes it easy to stand. I tell you, the little Yamaha 25, it doesn't have a ton of torque out of the hole, but it's got a fantastic top speed. In fact, earlier on my cell phone on GPS, I managed to just touch 50 kilometers an hour, which is a solid 30 miles an hour. Not bad for a little 25. So if you're looking for a lightweight yet luxurious tender that can accommodate 5 people, fit on most swim platforms, and provide a comfortable ride at up to 30 miles per hour, one that you can beach confidently without worrying about chipping gel coat, look no further than Highfield's latest Sport 330.
Never waste my time, you are I want. Neither of us wanna be alone.